Welcome back to the Allen Hour. I'm joined by Dan, joined by my brother Andrew. We got ourselves one heck of an episode coming up. The semifinals for the college football playoff, they are here. The games tomorrow and Friday night. Andrew and I have the privilege to go to the game on Friday night between Indiana and Oregon. We are ecstatic to go to that one down in Atlanta, but we have a couple of great games to talk about. These are going to be just classic college football playoff games, and some of the teams that are included into this tournament this year is the reason why college football expanded this thing to 12 teams, because you're having multiple different teams making runs at this thing that were not expected. And even though Indiana was the 1 seed, a lot of people still had their doubts because of the name brand and the logo. It wasn't red, or I shouldn't say that. It wasn't an SEC school, I should say. So a lot of people doubted Indiana's presence. But look at them. They're just steamrolling everybody. You got Dan's Ole Miss team rolling into the semifinals. No one thought they'd get past Georgia. And you got Miami, possibly the biggest shock of this entire tournament, taking down A&M on the road and then beating Ohio State on a neutral site. And here we are. And the semifinal is just going to be a fantastic couple nights of college football before we head in to the weekend of the NFL playoffs as well. Just an action-packed weekend in general for football. It's going to be a great, great couple games. And first of all, guys, welcome in. Thanks again for joining me for this semifinal preview. I'm going to cut right to the chase. We're going to get to the first game here. And the first game is tomorrow night. It's going to be Ole Miss and Miami down in Glendale, Arizona, where the Cardinals play. That's where they're playing. And the spread currently sits at Miami 3.5, the over-under 52.5. This opened up at Miami -3, so just some slight movement there, and the over-under moved up a point. It was at 51.5 as well. So, listen, I am going to go to the person who has been accurately reading this Miami team the best this entire tournament for the three of us. And dare I say, most people on TV, on radio shows, when they dive into this Miami team in their past two matchups in this whole playoff, they have, I would say, put up Andrew next to any one of these guys. He has accurately read this team, so I'm going to give him the floor to start this matchup.
Look at that, Andrew.
All right. Well, yeah, I tell you what, I was not expecting that because there's a certain team on here that somebody on this panel really
listen, I get
about.
it. That's
okay. Look,
he'll have his chance here.
I'll start with it, and maybe I might even surprise him, even though I have my Miami lights behind me. The question that I have, I always write a question for these matchups that I could just introduce with is, has Miami had to deal with this many weapons in a game so far this season? Not just in the playoffs, so far this season. And you might be sitting there like, yeah, duh, why am I? Of course, they played Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. Well, what if I told you that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate were the only two guys on their team with 500 yards, and the same for Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver? And what if I told you Harrison Wallace, Deshaun Stribling, Deuce Alexander, Daquan Wright, Caden Lee all have 500 yards, and Winston Watkins is right behind them with just over 400? That's a lot of firepower that Ole Miss has on offense, and they've been showing it throughout the year. And, yeah, they also have a 1,400-yard running back, Kawan Lacey, and another 500 yards on the ground from their quarterback in Winidad. Like, it's a lot of depth. It's a lot that Miami will have to worry about. But can Miami get home? There's one thing that we saw last week that if you looked at the box score, it didn't tell the whole story. You saw Georgia had 0 sacks. It's not that Georgia had no pressure. It's that Winidad escaped pressure and made the right play. But can Miami get home? Julian Sain was sacked 5 times in the Ohio State game. Marcel Reed was sacked 7 times in the Texas A&M game. Julian Sain really doesn't run that much. We know Marcel Reed is really prolific on his legs. And as I said, Georgia had 0 sacks against Trinidad. He evaded all pressure all night. So can he do that again? Is that something that I can look at and say, yeah, I can rely on him to do that every single game? Or have there been games this season where that hasn't happened? He was sacked 7 times against Florida this season. So I don't know if he's going to be able to evade pressure as much this game. And I'm really interested to see, because there might have been like 15, 20-yard losses on some of these sacks if Georgia was able to just get home. I mean, Trinidad was running that far back away from the line of scrimmage and then making stuff happen. But I think we're going to find out in this matchup, does defense truly win championships? Because so far that hasn't been the way Ole Miss has been winning things, right? They scored 35 against Georgia. They scored 39 against Georgia. But they allowed 43 in that first matchup to Georgia. They allowed 36 in the most recent matchup to Georgia. So it's not necessarily that their defense has been holding these great teams. It's that their offense is just simply outscoring them. They haven't been held to under 30 points since early October. And here's an interesting thing. I think Miami is really going to struggle to not allow them to score. I really do. I think there's so many options. Miami hasn't allowed 30 points all year. Okay. And the only time they've allowed 20 plus since October was an overtime game against SMU. So this is a defense that doesn't allow them to score that much against an offense that relies on scoring that much. I really flip-flopped on this. Maybe 4 or 5 times I erased and rewrote, erased and rewrote. I mean, Trinidad Chambliss has been 300 plus passing yards in 4 of his last 5. I think actually 5 of his last 6. Miami hasn't allowed a 300 plus passer in any game except for the SMU game, which went to overtime. I'm gonna take Miami minus the 3.5. I really thought about taking Ole Miss plus the 3.5 just because I get that hook. But I think maybe this is where Ole Miss struggles offensively, and I think you can really get to their defense. Miami has been able to control the game in all of their games so far. So maybe this is the game where we get Carson Beck making some plays, and it's not just so heavily reliant on the running game and their playmakers. But I'm going to take Miami minus the 3.5. It's the least confident I've been in a Miami pick so far, and we'll see what happens.
Now, Andrew, because you have a future on Miami, does that sway your decision there a little bit?
It sways it to an extent because I did the research. I know why I like the team, and I'm going to rely on why I like the team in this game. But yeah, it's tough. To think that I almost went Ole Miss it's not something I imagined when I started to do my research. I thought I was pretty sold on both my selections for today, and maybe that tells you something. Maybe that Dylan's right. Maybe since I have a future on Miami, I want Miami to win more than I think Miami's going to win. It might be right. Read it however you want to read it.
It's just transparency for the audience. People
complete
watching,
transparency.
I just want even transparency that's a part of
It's
what
a
you have
funky
here.
number, and I'm really surprised it went up because I think people are really starting to buy Miami, which I'm not one of those guys that was like, if everybody's on one side, I want to go on the other. That's not always how I go about things in every single situation, but people are now buying the Miami hype, and I think this might be a bad matchup for them defensively.
Now,
All
let
right,
me ask you
awesome.
this real quick before we go to Dan.
Sure.
Please, I have a question, and this can be answered by anybody in here. I just like the second half because Ole Miss had to come back in that game, right? They had to make some hell of a comeback, and it was Trinidad making play after play after play. Do you think that that's A, sustainable, and B, like, do you buy stock into that slow start? Could that carry over into this next game tomorrow night?
I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know. That's a big question mark for me. If it is sustainable, I think that's how Ole Miss wins the game. I think they have to make plays. I think they have to rely on their playmakers to make plays, and that starts with Trinidad. I do think their slow start is a bit concerning. Because again, there were like several times in the game where he could have been sacked for a 10, 15-yard loss, and that completely ruins the drive. And instead, it turns it into a 20, 30-yard gain, and now it's a completely different story, right? So I think there were times where they could have easily slipped up and lost the game. I'm not going to say it was lucky necessarily, the plays that Trinidad was playing, but maybe unsustainable, like you pointed out. We're going to see. I think this is really, really fun. I'm a little upset that this is the game we're not going to see in person. I'm very excited about the next game as well. I just feel like these are two like unexpected freaking powerhouses that are just so exciting to watch. And actually, I actually look back at our first ever, I think, when we talked about the college football playoff, I actually picked Ole Miss as my underdog team. This whole time I thought it was Miami, but I was worried about Miami's path having to go through Ohio State. I actually picked Ole Miss to make a run, and both teams have made a run so far. So it's going to be tricky. I know who the guy above me is going to pick already. I don't know who this guy's going to pick. I'm hoping somebody joins me, but yeah, I'm not confident in this one.
You know what, Andrew? I think we should start calling the Miami Hurricanes your squad. All you do is pick Miami. You know what? There's a couple things that you mentioned that I was going to mention. Through the first 3 quarters of the Sugar Bowl, Georgia had just 4 pressures, no sacks, despite being blitzed. Despite blitzing 15 times. So those lucky plays that Trinidad made, slash skill plays, they were mostly in the fourth quarter of those games. And I think that what you mentioned, Ole Miss is the only team in the CFP to have 5 guys with 500 yards and 3 guys with 600 yards. So I think that that's definitely going to play a difference. Just like Ruben Bain and Mesidor, they're going to have to get to the quarterback. I think that that is going to be their key to success. And I think that for Ole Miss, you just got to keep continuing to play. if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and just keep pounding the ball to Lacey. He only had, I believe, like 12 carries in the first Georgia meeting. He had he had at least over 20 in this past meeting. So I think that that's going to be your key, and then maybe some play actions in there to throw off Mesidor and Bain. It's kind of scary that Miami's only getting healthier as well. They have an All-American center and an All-American tackle as well. I'm very, nervous that Ole Miss's offense won't be able to keep up with Miami's offense. And if that's the case, then they're not going to win this football game because Miami's defense is just too demanding, and that pressure is just it might get to him. I'm gonna take Ole Miss plus the 3.5. I feel like the spread should be closer. I'm not gonna lie, like this spread is a little bit too big for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but yeah, I think that Trinidad/Winidad is gonna be, the X factor in this game again. Can he make those plays if Bain and Mesidor are getting to him? And looking for Quan Lacey to just continue to be Quan Lacey. Chambliss, if he's granted that waiver, he's coming back for a 6-year. Lacey announced he's coming back. We just signed a defensive coordinator from the Cardinals, who is the defensive coach, Patrick Tooney, I should say. He's going to be the DC next year. But I'm very excited for this game. I'm really upset that I can't go. That'd been awesome if all three of us went to this game. I'm looking for obviously those playmakers. Deuce Alexander, Wallace, just all those guys. And Daquan Wright, I need his, they might actually keep him on the line of scrimmage. He's like 6'4", 250, 260. They might keep him on that line of scrimmage just to get an extra blocker because Miami's defense is absolutely sensational. And I think that if Ole Miss's offense can continue to play and this fairy tale can continue, we'll see him in the national championship. I hope so.
Dylan, the biggest thing that I've noticed from Miami's defense is they have not allowed the home run play. Outside of the Jeremiah Smith 50-plus yard touchdown they gave up early in that game against Ohio State, they did a very nice job of limiting deep balls and deep runs to Ohio State and to Texas A&M. And a lot of that has to do with them just continuing to get pressure. And it's been an issue for a lot of these offenses to get into a rhythm when they're trying to drop back to pass and their quarterback's on the ground in 2 seconds. Now, I think the way to counter it, and we saw a little bit of it with Ohio State, it was too little too late for them, however, but we saw in the second half, they started just quick passing, getting it out as soon as they could, not allowing that pass rush to be a factor. And even still, Ruben Bain was still close to getting Julian Saint on a couple plays where they just threw it. So it was a matchup nightmare for Ohio State up front. And this was an issue that Andrew exploited with the Texas game, with the Indiana game, and then it carried over to Miami. So there was a pattern there. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but is there a similar pattern with Ole Miss and their offensive line that you've seen where they're susceptible to giving up a ton of pressure and it's resulting in sacks?
I mean, you saw it against Georgia, right? I mean, that's a team that's all over the quarterback. That's been all over the quarterback for the last month or so. And it wasn't necessarily the 0 sacks wasn't necessarily a credit to the Ole Miss offensive line as much as it was to Trinidad Chambliss' ability to evade. They got there. It's just can Miami get home? I don't know. I mean, he's a true playmaker. Trinidad Chambliss probably has the highest ceiling of anybody, any quarterback, any player in the league, right? So how do you measure something that you can't like quantify like that, like evading pressure? How do you does maybe Miami scheme something up where they have guys all over the field in both directions? Is there QB spies all over the field? Does that mean there's less pressure? There's so many things to think about, and I just don't know if it's sustainable. And we're gonna find out.
Yeah, we are definitely going to find out. The thing with me is you're absolutely right. You can't just. It's hard to compute that mental awareness in the pocket where you're able to evade pressure and roll out and create time. Like that's something that you can't really teach. It's an ability that you learn over the years and just you kind of get a feel for pressure. And he did a very good job of feeling that out in the Georgia game and making plays. And again, they had to make a ton of plays. Now, you guys presented all the stats. Another angle I look at, and this is the journalism media background in me. I'm always looking at the storyline, right, in this game. You have two teams that were not supposed to be here, according to everybody, right? They were heavily underdogs in their respective games. It was against Georgia in the second round for Ole Miss, and for Miami, it was both games. So you look at both of these teams, and it's the story of which Cinderella team is going to prevail. Because you have one team on one hand, Miami, a historic program that has been nothing for the last 20 plus years, trying to get back to the top of college football and to be considered a blue blood program once again. And you have another one that their coach left right as the season ended, dragged it out, forced assistants to follow him to Baton Rouge, or they weren't going to get a job at LSU. He's showing up to these games no longer as their coach, posting and celebrating their wins. He's cashing checks because they're winning. You got Pete Golding. You know, he's doing a great job so far as he's starting to be the head coach, and he's probably sick and tired of all the Lane Kiffin questions. And so now you have a team that has a chance to contend for a national championship that lost their coach at the end of the season because he went to go chase a bigger bag and a school with more NIL money and funds. So you have all of these storylines going, and on the other side, you have Indiana, that's like the worst program ever in terms of win percentage, undefeated, the number 1 seed with a Heisman winner. So there's just so many storylines going on. For me, given all those numbers and stats, I think the biggest one is this Ole Miss storyline. I really do. And I'm not picking them to win this game or to cover the spread because of the storyline. I've listened to all the statistics that you've pointed out. I'm not going to rehash them. But I think the storyline adds to it a little bit because it is just something we've never seen before in modern day football, in college football, with how the transfer portal has become, the coaching carousel, and just new faces everywhere. We've saw with the smaller schools, the coaches that were leaving to go to bigger programs. They coached and finished out the seasons with their teams. And this whole Lane Kiffin thing was a mess. Dan is an Ole Miss fan. I'm sure in the moment you were pretty ticked off. And now you're probably happy because Pete Golding's gotten you to a point that he never got you to, that the school's never been to. So you're probably feeling a little better about it now. But you go back weeks ago, you were probably ticked off. You thought they were going to lose maybe the second round to Georgia at some point. So the way I see it is, I think Trinidad Chambliss is a special kind of talent that even the best pass rush is going to have trouble taking down. And I think they have a lot of weapons, like you talked about, Andrew, that I think are just too difficult to contain. And even though Miami's done a nice job defending the home run play, I just think there's too many options. And if he can roll out of a pressure and create time and buy time, someone's going to get open. And I think we're going to see a couple of those plays because unlike Julian Sayin, who kind of just stands in the pocket, Trinidad rolls around, moves, and creates space and time. So I really do think this is a toss-up, Andrew. I agree with you. I'm going to take the safe side and take the points, take the 3. And they have the kicking advantage. We all know this. We saw the kicking from Lucas Carnero in the Georgia game. You know, if you're getting 3 points with a guy who can hit them from 55 plus, that's a luxury to have right there. So I'm going to take Ole Miss. Now, for anyone listening, I'm going to put the records of all of our playoff games so far to this point. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I promise I'll put them up because I say this because Andrew's been on a hot streak. I have not been. Dan has been kind of in the middle. So if anyone wants to go off of just our records thus far, I completely get it. Full transparency. That's what we're all about here. So, but again, Dan and I, how many times have we done this, Dan? Where we're both on the same side of a game and we lose? I feel like it's been quite often.
It's not going to happen this week. So
I hope not. I'm picking their storyline. I just think the whole Lane Kiffin, like, go stick it storyline.
Did you pick Texas Tech?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been on the same side a couple times.
Unfortunately, yeah. So it's happened a couple times, but that's where I side right now. I think we're in for a classic football game, and I think the storyline of Miami becoming that program that they once were is right up there with the Lane Kiffin storyline for me. So they're neck and neck, and I just think that this is going to be a classic of a game. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the Ohio State-Miami game in that first half, where Ohio State just looked lost and they just kept trying to force it down the field and they just kept getting sacked. And they're like, well, what do we do now? Okay, let's throw it deep again, get sacked. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think you're going to have two teams that understand one another, and it's just going to be a clash from start to finish. So really excited for this game. I know Dan is as a fan of Ole Miss. You never thought that you'd be here. You maybe didn't even think you'd be here with Lane Kiffin as your coach at the start of the year. So that's just to show how good of a year this is for both of these programs. Should be a fun one. Again, the spread, Miami favored by 3.5. That game tomorrow night, Thursday the 8th, 7:30 kickoff. So without further ado, we'll get to the Friday game in Atlanta, the one that Andrew and I will be at, the Peach Bowl. It's the number 1 Indiana Hoosiers, undefeated, the only undefeated team remaining in college football, 14-0, taking on the Oregon Ducks, ranked 5th, and they only have, what do they have, one loss this year too? They only have one, right? think.
Oregon got 1, 2.
Oregon has 1 loss, 13-1, coming
Indiana.
off a win against Texas Tech, a 23-0 blowout, in what was a total dominating game from them from start to finish on both ends. So, Dan, I'm going to go to you on this one.
Let's get it.
To start us off. What is your pick between Indiana, Oregon? The spread, real quick, I forgot to mention, it opened up at 4 in favor of the Hoosiers. The over-under was 47.5. The line has since moved down half a point. Now the Hoosiers favored by 3.5, and the over-under stayed at 47.5. So, Dan, what's your pick for this one at the Peach Bowl?
Yeah, so there's heavy money on Indiana. About 75% of the money is on Indiana to cover, and about 71% of the money is for them to just win the game outright. I think that when you look at this game, these two teams have played already, so we have something to judge it on. Week 7 they played. Dante Moore played probably, if not one of his worst games. He had 2 interceptions that game, 9 carries for negative 27 yards as well. He did not play well, and I think that if Indiana could control the line of scrimmage, limit Dante Moore's big plays in this game, I think that they will be definitely victorious in this game. I think that the loss of Jordan Davison, he's not playing this week. That is a big loss for Oregon. They're going to go to their leading rusher and Noah Winningham, but still. And we mentioned there's a couple other running backs that are also out. I don't know if they play or not, but I think that if Indiana can limit the Dante Moore big plays, I think that if they can control the line of scrimmage, there's no question Oregon's offense did not play their best game against, Texas Tech either, and they still won 23-0. I'm going to take Indiana here. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to sneak the under in this game.
Okay.
Yeah,
Double pick action
in this game. I think that, those 2 picks might have been a fluke for Dante Moore, and I think that also, with the draft coming up, we'll maybe get 1 and 2 picks. Mendoza and Dante Moore could very well be these 1 and 2 picks. I think that each quarterback is going to try to show up the other, and I'm going to take Indiana just because of their star power at wide receiver is Surratt and Cooper, and they lead the way. I think that it's going to be a little too much for Oregon, who has a fantastic defense too. Let's not forget about that. That defense is great, but I think that this is just going to continue the storybook season for Indiana, and I'm taking them minus 3.5.
Yeah, this whole
great
playoff.
pick.
Oh, all right. He likes to pick. Now I don't know if anybody noticed. I did
see the color change. Yes,
the lights mid Dan monologue there. Yeah, no. This whole playoff, throughout all of our previews, I've been discussing how Oregon's defense is underrated, and for the first time, I now believe they're overrated. Wow. I don't think they're as good as they displayed against Texas Tech. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a very good defense, and I think they deserve to be here a lot due in part to their defense. The problem is Indiana's a different beast, okay? This isn't Baron Morton we're talking about, okay, who we all had at the bottom of our list. Now, I thought Baron Morton was probably a little bit better than that, but this isn't Baron Morton, okay? This is Fernando Mendoza, and this is a team that does not make mistakes. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot, the Indiana Hoosiers, and they've proven that time and time again. I think Oregon's going to struggle on all fronts, really. I really don't like the way Dante Moore has played in totality in the playoff. Obviously, he had a game against JMU where in the first half he was absolutely electric, and in the second half he wasn't as electric. Maybe they took their foot off the pedal a little bit. Maybe he cared a little less. I don't buy much stock into that. But against Texas Tech, man, and I know Texas Tech's defense is great, and everybody's viewed them as great, and we didn't know how they would transition against a Big Ten team, which they ended up doing very well. But, man, Dante Moore really struggled, and that offense really struggled. And you discussed the injuries at the running back position. Now, they're deep at that position, right? They're going to lose one of their guys, but that's a position group that really struggled against Texas Tech, like really struggled. I mean, how many times did they go for it on 4th and short, 4th and 2, 4th and 1, and just not get it, right? It was over and over and over again. And as an Oregon bettor last week, it was like, geez, just let me get a 20-point lead. Let me get a 30-point lead. I mean, they had opportunity after opportunity, granted, because of their defense, to score more and more points, and they just weren't able to do it. Now, obviously, Dan Lanning, he likes running up the score a little bit, ended up making it a 23-0 game when it was all said and done. Anyways, I think Indiana, I think it's a hard team to bet against. Dan pointed out that the crowd is seemingly with Indiana. I'm going to side with the crowd. Maybe that's the mush move. I don't think so. Until a team shows me that they can truly beat an Indiana team that dominates the trenches. That's really good running the football, really good passing the football. And Fernando Mendoza's got those sneaky giraffe legs. I don't see how you pick Oregon until Indiana proves that they're not as good as they've been showing. They've been dominating every team they played. We called it against Alabama last week. I'm going to take Indiana laying the points. I didn't realize it went down until we just started recording. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the number's gone down. I'm happy. I thought it was going to go up from the last time we spoke. So I'll take Indiana minus the points to go along with my Miami minus the points. So I'm all in the favorites this week.
So maybe that just is to show that people are putting some late money in on Oregon at that +4 mark and move the line down half a point. Listen, I'm with the two of you. I'm not going to drag this along. I applauded Dan's pick when he said it. I pretty much nodded at everything you said, Andrew, when you changed the colors in your background and just every point you made. I was like, yeah, I'm fully on board with all of you. I have been on Indiana. If there's one thing I'm good at it, and it has not been a lucrative betting season for me, with just my personal picks. If there's one team that I have been consistently correct with, it has been this team. Bet them last week with Alabama. I have just bet them a number of times this year to cover 4 touchdown spreads, and they've done it. Like, they are an absolute wagon. And in this game specifically, I think a lot of the reason why this spread is as low as it is because of the defensive showing Oregon put on last week, shutting out Texas Tech. I don't know if it's going to sway anybody into believing that defense is like a premier elite defense, but I do think there's a chance that people look at that game and go, wow, okay, Oregon can play some defense, so this is going to be a close one. I realistically think this game, I hate to say it, I think this is a bigger win for Indiana than it was the first time they played in Eugene, Oregon. I really do think this has the chance to be a 2-touchdown win. I know that's a big thing I'm saying there, but with the way Indiana has played as of late as well, on both ends, they've controlled time of possession with the run game. That has been consistently their bread and butter. And in turn, their quarterback, who doesn't throw incompletions and doesn't throw costly interceptions, he's taking care of the football. That's how they win these games. They just run it up your throat. They throw when they have to. I mean, think about it. They played Alabama. They only threw it 16 times. Like, they didn't have to throw it a bunch. They knew what the game plan was. Alabama, they knew they couldn't run the ball on offense, so just defend, get them the punt, and then just control clock and score. Throw when you have to and throwing downs. And it was very easy going. Now, it's not going to be as easy against Oregon, but I just think that they are fully equipped on the offensive end to just take control of this game. And Mendoza is the better quarterback of the two right now. Moore maybe has more upside in terms of an NFL career. But if we're talking just right now, in a couple days' time, I'm taking Fernando Mendoza any day of the week. So I love Indiana to cover this spread. And again, the biggest thing for me that I'm looking for in this game, and I wrote this down, is that I just think that they are going to be able to control time of possession, Indiana, and they're going to win the field position battle. Look to see Oregon starting a lot of their drives offensively inside their own 20, inside their own 15, and it's an uphill battle the entire time. Because even when Indiana doesn't score points, I have faith that they'll be able to move the ball close to midfield, and even if they punt it, they just pin them deep. And Curt Cignetti seems like the guy that doesn't take a risk unless it's a calculated one. He doesn't really mess around. This is why he's got a 25-2 record with this team over the last 2 seasons. So I truly do think Indiana wins, and I think there's a chance they win it by 10+. So I'm going to take Indiana. I'm all over the Hoosiers in this game, minus the 3.5. And when I saw that point or the spread go down half a point, I was jumping for joy, because not that 4 was scaring me, but when you're betting, you obviously want to have the 3, right? When you bet one more than 3, the back of your mind, it always lingers like, oh, if they win by a field goal, I'm screwed. So you always have that thought in your mind. But I do think that Indiana can win this game by 10 or more, similar to the first outing that we saw.
Now, I want to kind of put Dylan on the spot here.
Sure.
Can you pull a me move in this game? Can you buy the 4, buy the 5, buy
the
6?
I'll do it.
Climb it up, climb the ladder.
I was going to go.
Dude, I'll do it. We're going to be there. I'll do it.
Well, remember, you have to do that tonight because
is it legal?
I'll do it tomorrow morning when we leave.
Yeah,
hopefully the line goes down to 3.
One more.
If you need me, Dylan, you can call me, Dylan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
there
got
you go. We got the bookie.
Yeah.
One more thing I kind of want to point out that, again, I just think favors Indiana. I mean, Dante Moore is like kind of underrated a statue in the pocket a little bit. He really doesn't move that well. He doesn't really run that well. And we saw how much success Indiana had against a similar quarterback like that in Julian Sayin, right, in Ohio State. So that's another added thing. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary how all over we are in the Hoosiers, but hey, it worked last week.
And listen,
Hoosiers, yeah.
the thing is too, guys, like, how confident are we in Dan Lanning? Like, I shouldn't say confident. How likely is it that Dan Lanning tries to get too cute in this game because maybe at one point he feels his team's a little outmatched and it just totally screws him over for the rest of the game? Whether it be a fake punt early on or something that happens early on that they try to get Indiana to catch him off guard and it doesn't work. And now all of a sudden Indiana takes over inside Oregon's like 30-yard line. I mean, there's potential for that to happen because Dan Lanning has a track record of trying to be too cute of a coach.
If Dan Lanning feels like he needs to do that, though, I mean, there's a chance where it flips, where it works, and now you get a game where, Oregon's converting on fourth downs, and Oregon's forcing fluster turnovers. Like, stuff can happen in this game where Oregon can absolutely roll, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think that in this first matchup, that Indiana defense had 6 sacks on Dante Moore and their offense. I think that they're just going to be – that defense is legit. So I think they're going to be too much to handle for Dante Moore. And I'm going back to the Ole Miss game quickly. I don't know if I mentioned the spread and how much money. 54% of the money on the spread is for Ole Miss. 59% of just the money line is for Ole Miss. So I think that it's a little scary to me. I don't like everyone betting Ole Miss, but I hope I see an Ole Miss Indiana. Just imagine those two storylines, Dylan, with the journalistic background that we have, and Andrew too. Just imagine that's like those two storylines, and they play the national championship. That's awesome.
There you go. An example for you of not Dan Lanning getting too cute, but just that early aggression that you're talking about, Andrew, and what he tried to show in that game against Texas Tech, going for it. On the opening drive against Indiana in the first meeting back in October, Oregon had the football on their own 46-yard line. It was 4th and 1. They ran it with Davison, who, again, is not in this game, correct? That's the
Nope.
right running. Yeah, he's not in this game. They went for it on 4th and 1, didn't get it, and Indiana got a field goal. So not that it was a touchdown, but the first drive of the game, the last time they played, Dan Lanning felt, okay, on my own 46, let's go. Didn't get it in a similar spot as to what you're citing with the Texas Tech game, a 4th and 1 short run that didn't convert, and Indiana able to just take 3 free points. So that's what kind of worries me. If the aggression pays off, I really do think Oregon has a chance to win. Obviously, that might sound like an obvious point, but with his background of being an aggressive coach, I do think it comes back to bite him because of how well coached Indiana is and how prepared Cignetti has these guys. So it just kind of scares me to bet on the coach that just seemingly is an aggressive guy to begin with, even if they have the game won. That's the thing too. Like, if he has an early lead, it would not surprise me if he still just plays aggressive and gives IU chances to convert turnover on down plays to get them back into the game. So I'm just going to take the safe play with the better coach, the better quarterback, the better defense. I'm taking Indiana. Easy pick for me. So,
me too.
Well, we're all agreeance. That's we had them last time too. Should I put? Is this a lock for all of us? I'm gonna put
Andrew. For me,
come on.
I don't know if I want the lock and shade. No. I don't know. I'm 1-0 on my locks, so maybe I want to keep it that way. But if I had to pick a game between these two to put more money on, I put the same on every.
No, and you get the lock next to Ole Miss.
Yeah, if I had to put a game, if
I had Ole Miss for you, okay.
Oh, you want the lock on Ole Miss? Yeah, I mean, I feel more confident about this game than the other game for sure.
I'm with you there.
And it does shock me, honestly, that people are on Ole Miss like that. I thought for sure now people are going to be on the Miami bandwagon.
Come on over.
That does shock me a little bit. Look, Ole Miss can win the game, man. They can make plays. They got the playmakers.
But listen, Vegas is on the Miami train. 3.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they went from 4-point dogs, 10-point dogs, now 3.5-point favorites.
Which I don't get. Maybe it's just me, but I'm imagining in my head what a spread would look like for Indiana and Ole Miss.
They had them out on DraftKings. I saw them earlier, actually, and I was kind of
actually they have enough fan. I'm just imagining in my head.
I think they would. I think that's probably a 7-point spread.
Here, yeah, Andrew. What would you think the spreads are?
Yeah.
I would think
Miami, Indiana.
Miami, Indiana. I'd think Indiana's probably like the Oregon spread, like 3-4 points.
On DraftKings, it's 5.5.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That doesn't shock me.
They think that the best game would be in the Miami and Oregon. That's what they think. that would be the best betting game because that's the
It would.
closest.
Do they
It's
have
the
that on there,
closest.
Dylan?
They have
Yeah, they
all
have
of
it
the
all on here.
potential.
So is Miami favored against Oregon?
No, the plus 2.5.
No. On DraftKings is plus 1.5.
Oh wow,
That's pretty even.
That's a close.
2.5.
That's as close as it gets.
So
The
what
biggest
about-
spread.
I would
They
think.
even
I
have
would
stats
think.
on here.
I would
Oh,
think
wow.
Indiana is
Crazy.
probably a 7-point spread against Ole Miss.
7.5.
I got 8.5 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean,
So they have it. They have it a
means
point higher and lower.
99% of the bets would be
To me,
on-
that's like a legit 7-point spread. It's
Yeah,
not like
that
the
makes sense.
Alabama 7-point spread
Yeah,
where
yeah,
like
that's legit.
people are just on Alabama and that money didn't move.
minus 320 on the money line. By the way,
Wow,
would be
man.
Indiana.
Exciting
I'd
stuff.
say-
Ooh, okay, so
Good
Dylan, just as a viewer, what
Yeah.
would be your most exciting national championship matchup?
Oof.
We know what 50% of it would contain for Mr. Dan, but I'm asking you, Dylan.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
another
From
half.
just from someone that I'm like, hey, listen, this game, like if I'm not a college football fan and I'm trying to get into the sport, if there was a matchup out of these potential matchups that I would be like, hey, this is a game that I think will sell you on the sport of college football. To me, I truly do think it's Ole Miss Indiana because I think you get Trinidad Chambliss, who has this just a pure talent ability in the pocket and just running around, and they have all those offensive weapons. And then on the flip side, you have the Heisman winner. You have the storyline of just this historic program that has really not done anything. They hadn't won a bowl game since 1991. Think about that. Their previous bowl win was in 1991. The next one is the damn Rose Bowl. Like that jump in time. And then in terms of pedigree on the bowl games that they won is insane to me. So it's like, try to explain that to an NFL fan. It's as if the Jets like hadn't made the playoffs, like they haven't right now. Like, let's say they didn't make the playoffs this year. They didn't. And then next year they just win the Super Bowl out of nowhere. And it's like, what the hell just happened? They didn't make the playoffs for 20 straight years. And all of a sudden they make one coaching decision, one player decision, and they're in there. It's like, what? You try. It's incomprehensible. So to me, I think that's the best matchup because you get the FU Lane Kiffin on one end, and then you just get like college football's just almost high school sweetheart, if I could compare it to something. Or everyone's just rooting for it. Like it's just one of those things where Indiana has just been the shocker of the season, and Ole Miss has been a close second, maybe a close third to Miami. But in terms of just pure enjoyment, I think Ole Miss's offense could actually do some work against Indiana's defense. While on the contrary, Miami might struggle to move the ball on offense. Like if Miami had a better offense, I might have picked that matchup because their defense is electric to watch too.
Andrew,
So,
I'm
what do you
going
guys
to
think?
I'm going to give it ready. I don't think this is even close as an Ole Miss fan. It's Ole Miss Oregon. I mean, like it's not even close. I don't want to. The last team I want to see is Miami. Not Miami. Is Indiana.
Really?
Yeah, I think that team is legit. I think that they're saying it would be a 5.5 spread if Miami and Indiana play. Like I don't want to I don't know, man. I think that Ole Miss's offense could keep up with Oregon as well. And I think that defense could be just good enough to beat Oregon. So I'm going to take Ole Miss Oregon as my matchup and give me
Yeah,
Ole Miss.
if I was like trying to grow the sport and I was trying to rig the game so that the fans would get the most out of it,
Yeah.
I think I would agree with Dylan. It's probably Indiana, Ole Miss would be the most exciting. But for me, as like a better that has probably put a lot of money on both of these teams, I think Indiana, Miami, just because of the battle in the trenches, man, the constant pressure on the quarterback, like that juices me up, man. When they just start smoking guys and hitting guys hard, like that kind of juices me up. But like obviously, probably if you polled 100 college football fans, they'd say the best game was Georgia Ole Miss was the last round. Offensive firepower, boom, boom, boom. Shot for shot. So. Yeah, I think most exciting Indiana, Ole Miss. But man, Indiana, Miami, for monetary reasons too, would be mighty intriguing for me.
Who do you think it's obviously with the picks? Never mind. That was a stupid question. I was going to say, who do you think it's going to be? But you already answered.
I think I'm going to get my matchup, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Andrew bet two favorites. So Dan, we potentially could have Ole Miss losing this and still covering. There's a chance.
I have a future on Ole Miss. I did December 9th. 10 to win 300.
Wow. Jeez, so
that.
This is the battle of the future here.
So you have 30 to 1 on Ole Miss. I got 35 to 1 on Miami.
What's your cash out? Is it high?
It was 15 to win 4, so yes, like just over 70.
Yeah, mine's about 45. So
bro, I could have paid for your ticket.
Dude,
That's true.
yeah.
Cash out, go to the game.
All the viewers out there, the cheapest ticket in this game is $45, and I'll take heat in the comments that I'm not a real fan. I get that. It was a little too late to take off work. I really, really wanted to go, but
It's not easy to just fly to Arizona and
when
like.
you have family there, I could definitely swing it.
Listen, I'm trying to help you out here, Dan. You know,
Mm-mm.
you're digging the hole deeper
No,
for
yeah.
yourself. So,
And then if you look at the national championships, it's ridiculous. It's like two grand.
We got 3 games left, boys. That's sad.
I'll tell you what. You want to know something crazy? That Ole Miss Indiana potential national championship over under is only 50.5.
Yeah,
That
that's
tells
a
you.
lot of firepower.
To me, that like kind of seems a tad low.
I have 49.5 on here.
Take the under.
Yeah, I listen. They must think that Ole Miss ain't going to score. Then that's what I'm
Look at
thinking.
national championship games in the past.
9-point spread and it's 50.5.
I don't bet over under, so don't put any stock into this. Any viewers or either both of you. I would take the under in this Ole Miss game, Ole Miss Miami,
Oh shit!
and I would take the over in the Oregon Indiana game.
Andrew's been hot with his picks.
He's been
not
hot.
those picks. No, don't count.
I'm putting locks next to those over unders.
No,
by the way,
don't. That doesn't.
I need you to throw a lock next to that Ole Miss.
6-2 or 6-2.
I will.
Over there.
I will.
Dude, I really think that they could just dominate. Like I'm not. It's like
listen, dude.
They're a really good football team. So is Miami, but
don't sleep on the Miami offense, man. I think they got firepower they haven't shown yet.
I'm sleeping.
They do.
I'm sleeping on it, man. I mean, like if Malachi Tony could, be Malachi Tony and Mark Fletcher, and if Carson Beck is just good enough, and I mean like when I mean just good enough, I mean like over 225 passing yards because he's struggled to hit that recently. So I think that he didn't have many. I think he had like 100 something against Ohio State. I don't know. I think that the 3.5 is kind of disrespectful to this Ole Miss team. To be honest, they're a good squad.
I like that. Put that
a little biased. A little biased.
Speaking of Ole Miss, Dan, you got to be pretty happy. We'll just do a little quick hit on the transfer portal. Kawan Lacey announcing that he'll be back with Ole Miss next year. And Trinidad Chambliss, if his waiver gets approved by the NCAA, he'll also be back. So you got to be pretty pretty thrilled about that news, especially with Pete Golding going to be your coach the rest of the way, kind of just getting that commitment from some of his better guys.
Yeah, I think that, like everybody's, want to say, and even Deuce Alexander, he said he was staying back, and Lucas Carneiro, thank God he's staying
I wanted
back.
the Giants to get him, man.
I said it to you. I said, sorry to the Giants kicker, but Ben is a stud. Ben Hall, right? Is that Better Call Hall? That's his name. And the Giants kicker, he's a stud.
He is good. I'll give him that. He was solid.
I'm very
good. Cost us the first pick.
Yeah, that's true. I'm very excited for the squad. This year and next year. Not Kawan, and Trinidad said that he was a little upset that this waiver process for him is going a little slow, but I think that he needs to just focus on this game and then hopefully the next game, and then we can focus on next season as well. Our backup, he went to Missouri. Austin Simmons, who like I was reading up on him. Obviously, Trinidad took his job week 3 or week 4. He has been such a great leader in that locker room, and he's really handled it like a professional. With giving Trinidad advice and stuff because he's a D2 transfer. He has very minimal Division I experience, so he's handled it like a professional. I'm going to miss him as well. But our key guys are staying. We flipped the tackle from LSU. We didn't flip him. From LSU we got him here, a former 5-star. So we have a 5-star tackle. It seems like guys really don't want to play for Lane Kiffin. I saw a funny stat that every time that Kiffin's brought a transfer to a game, LSU has lost. So I found that funny. That they're like 0-4. They just had Sam Levitt, I think last night or 2 nights ago. Courtside.
I saw the video. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you watch, like Paul Feinbaum, he rips on Lane Kiffin. He'll say like he's like a horrible. He'll go after like his person. He's a horrible person. He's handled this very poorly, but looking back on this whole thing, like this, I think that my main beef now is with the college football calendar. I think it's horrible. I think that, obviously Ole Miss adapted Keith Carter. They adapted AD. They adapted this whole situation, but I'm looking at Ole Miss next year. This team might be a wagon next year too. They're flipping guys from LSU. They're getting guys in the portal as well. Pete Golding, every time that something big happens, he'll tweet the like the shark emoji. That's why I go like this. He'll tweet the shark emoji. He tweeted this is at 2 a.m. I was still at work in LB, and he tweeted the Trinidad flag. I was like, oh, thank God he's coming back or whatever. So it was awesome. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next year too. This team could be a wagon next year with all their weapons staying and gaining all these portal additions.
Just got to get some defenders, man, and then you guys will be a
This team is
surefire
horrible on
program here.
defense. I'm looking at 247 right now.
Listen, that's Pete
Yeah, great.
Golding's background. He's a defensive guy. You got to give him time now to recruit his guys in there, because don't forget Lane's an offensive guy, so he
Exactly.
probably was focused a little more on offensive players.
Yep. And Princewell's coming back, who's a big he's a big addition to that defense, the edge. The tight end with the horrible hairline, Luke Haas, is coming back.
I think I saw a video of that guy taking his helmet off, and I was just like,
That was
"Whoa, I
him.
was not
Yeah, that
expecting
was
that."
him.
Okay, there
That
you
was
go.
him.
If you haven't
Yeah,
seen that video, look it
actually,
up.
And Caleb Odom is a stud. He went to Alabama. He's coming to Ole Miss next year. So
We could probably do a whole episode on the portal, man.
Oh,
It's
100%.
a mess. It's a
do a
complete
message.
mess.
We should do a video on the NFL playoffs. Dylan.
I don't know if you guys have been keeping track of like the Damon Williams situation, but that thing
I was going to bring him up next. Yeah.
that thing's a complete mess. The whole thing's a complete sham. Okay, you can't sign a contract like 5 days ago,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden, and which by the way, that's another thing. If it happens where he's allowed to transfer, that's another thing Lane Kiffin's going to benefit from. That guy's going to LSU, 100% going to LSU.
Well, did you see what Washington said? I think they were like, yeah, we have no intent on him entering the portal or whatever. Because I think that once you sign the contract, like,
and now what? Now you're Washington, who just signed your quarterback to a contract, and he like doesn't want to play and he wants to leave now and go to like the whole thing is a mess. They got to figure something out. We're
going to see where Sam Levitt goes. Sam Levitt's going to be a big player in the portal. I wonder where he goes.
And I'll tell you what, we had just 2 matchups to cover, and we somehow gave Dylan another hour video to edit, which is that's special stuff from us.
Well, he doesn't have to throw graphics.
Special stuff.
Put any graphics in. You just put Trinidad right under my face through the whole episode, and that'd be fun.
I'll put him behind you, sitting on your mantle back there, right underneath your TV. Yeah, like Drake on the CN Tower.
Yeah, views from the 6.
There you go. Yeah, we could definitely do an episode on the portal for sure, and I think Washington is bringing that whole thing to court as well, and so it's just, yeah, I don't blame them, but I also saw a tweet from one of the Rutgers on 3 guys that I follow, Richie O. He just was saying like, well, Washington, good luck getting anyone in the portal going forward, because I understand that they're not in the wrong here, but to a lot of players that agree with Williams in this decision, it's like they're gonna just start not looking at Washington because of how they're attacking this with him. So it is a mess. And the whole thing with college basketball, letting these former pros go play for them too. It's not even football, but it's just in terms of the NCAA athletics, it's a mess entirely. So we could definitely do some episodes on that going forward. But again, listen, to recap things, Andrew has Miami -3.5. Dan and I are both on Ole Miss +3.5. And then the 3 of us all on Indiana in the second game on Friday night, covering that 3.5 point spread against the Oregon Ducks. So what should be a good couple of nights of college football that then leads in to the NFL wild card weekend. It's going to be an action-packed weekend full of football. So like Dan kind of hinted at, we probably won't get a video up in time for the wild card weekend this weekend, but for the rest of the NFL slate going forward, expect some content on the playoffs and as those rounds start to unfold and as teams start getting eliminated and moving on in that respect. So again, I appreciate you, everyone tuning in. Make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe, turn that notification bell on so that every time we post on here, you get notified right away and you can watch. You can be the first one. Make sure to leave a comment. I know I keep saying we're going to address your comments. We're going to address your comments in the next video. I promise when this whole thing is done or next round, we're going to address these comments. I will remember. So leave those comments down below. It can be anything related to the games we went over. It can be about the NFL playoffs. It can be about the NCAA transfer portal. You name it. Drop it down below and we will talk to you about it in the next video. So again, thank you for tuning in. For Andrew and Dan, I'm Dylan saying have a good rest of your night and we'll see you next time after the semis.